This is the Domain Magnet Show, where you'll learn everything you need to know about buying, optimizing, and selling online businesses with your host, Michael Baroslavsky.
Hello, dear podcast listeners. Today we are talking with Matt Barrie, the founder and CEO of freelancer.com and escrow.com. Hi, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm excited to talk to you because we've personally been a client of Escrow for quite a long time, and we've used Freelancer for a while. So I'm very familiar with your companies and your products. And I would love to start from numbers to give us some perspective on how big those businesses are, if you can go into some revenues or other things about Freelancer.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we're a public company. We're listed on the Australian Securities Exchange, so the numbers are all out there. So the group consists of a number of companies. So the largest company is freelancer.com, which is the world's largest crowdsourcing marketplace by number of users. So we have about 38 million people in that marketplace who have done about 16.4 million jobs. And these are jobs like build me a website, design for me a logo, all the things you might want to do to actually build value into your domain name. For example, copywriting, internet marketing, translations, right through to astrophysics, aerospace engineering, genetic engineering, biotechnology, manufacturing, walk your dog, steam clean your carpet, paint your house, whatever it may be. So there's about 1,600 different job categories and growing on that site. And we've run that business now for a decade, and we've bought about 23 or so companies, of which the vast majority have been competitors of Freelancer. We've merged in to the business. As well in the group, we have escrow.com, which is the world's largest online escrow company that's been running for 20 years. That was started by Fidelity in 1999. SoftBank put in $40 million back then, and we acquired that business in 2015. And it's for buying and selling anything of value across the internet, and making sure that you get paid if you're the seller, and making sure you get what you actually paying for if you're the buyer. And then we have some small companies in the group. One is called Freightlancer, which is a global marketplace for freight. And so we move typically very expensive and complicated equipment. So things like cranes, construction equipment, mining, industrial, and so forth. It's a bit smaller in terms of the business, but we do, for example, Newcrest gold mines, Barrick gold mines, Sydney Metro, you name it. The uglier and the more difficult the equipment is, the more it's in our sweet spot. And then we run the largest technology conference in Australia called StartCon, Startups and Growth and so forth. And we have a business called Warrior Forum, which some people in the domain space will know because it's the world's largest forum for internet marketing, 1.4 million people. It's been running since 1997. In terms of the numbers, as a group, as a whole, the turnover is about, at the moment, well, the last 6 months was $400 million. So for the year, it's probably going to be over 800, 900 million or so in terms of volume. It splits up between the different businesses. Escrow is a bit over, I think, about $500 million a year at the moment, roughly, in terms of volume per annum. And then the group is basically nets out of that about $60 million or so in terms of revenue. And we are profitable as of last half. Yes. So that's in a nutshell the business.
Nice. So you're close to making $1 billion in revenue across all the different businesses together.
In turnover.
Yeah. And in terms of revenues, is that similar?
It's about 60 million in terms of revenue.
Nice. A report, we've done some research, and we found that there's an article that says that Escrow was acquired by you in 2015 for about $7.5 million. Is that?
Well, the unfortunate thing about being a public company is I've got to tell everyone the price they paid for everything. And I'm a deep value investor, and I'm very patient in terms of my negotiations. So unfortunately, it means I cannot give away how much I buy these things for. But yes, I actually paid $7.1 million for escrow.com.
That sounds like an amazing deal. You had Escrow, what was already an established company at the time.
It was doing $430 million a year in payment volume at the time. So it was a gift in a way, but it was very patient. It was not a straightforward negotiation. It was complex, took time, and I think it was a great transaction.
Yeah, it certainly is. And currently, how many transactions are you doing in escrow, like per day? Or
I'm not sure the numbers per day, and it's very volatile because obviously some things we sell are quite expensive. So domain names now can sell for $30 million a pop. So it does bounce around a little bit, but I mean the volume per annum is about over $500 million.
Yeah, so it says on the website that you've done $3.5 billion in volume and have 1 million customers. It's
actually over $4 million $4 billion US dollars in volume now. And yeah, there's 1 point something million customers, maybe 1.5 million. I haven't checked the stats on that lately.
And do you know what do people use it most? Like what percentage of that is actually domains, cars?
Domains is a very large part of it because that's where a lot of the history came from with escrow.com. But increasingly, we're now in automotive, boats, cars, airplanes. We're in jewelry, gemstones, diamonds. We're shipping containers. If you bring a shipping container from China, it's a great way to make sure that you actually get getting what you're paying for, and the quality is there. Particularly as you order the second or third order, and they like to shove all the defects from the first order in the second and third and fourth orders, and so forth. We also do all sorts of other complicated transactions involving, for example, selling zebras, or there's a space station they're trying to finance called Orion, and they're trying to finance that with $10 million tickets, trying to get up as the world's first affordable luxury hotel, and we're taking deposits for that right now for $80,000 US. You can get yourself a deposit on a ticket up to a space station if they manage to get it in the air up into space. Then later on you can pay the balance, and you can be one of the first people on staying in a space hotel.
That's from escrow.com?
Through escrow.com, yeah.
Nice. So you're into space hotels now. That's an interesting industry.
Yeah, well, I hope they get off the ground. So
you mentioned
it's pretty exciting.
A zebra. How did that transaction go? Did someone want to buy or sell a zebra from us?
It was from I think either from a zoo to a safari park, or a safari park to the zoo. And then we do a lot of animals. We'll do fish. We'll do dogs. We'll do what have you. Because obviously you need to check veterinary information. You got to make sure they're healthy. Make sure the shipping is appropriate. They arrive alive. All that sort of stuff. So escrow is ideal for transactions like this.
I imagine that the transaction fee structure is probably different, or is it the same for all products?
It does differ a little bit based upon the value of the item being sold, the industry you're in, whether you're a wholesale customer or a commercial customer versus a retail customer, and also how you're paying for it.
Nice. So there was a recent change in escrow about a couple months ago, I believe, that you changed the list of countries that you do business with.
Yes.
And I know that it affected a lot of clients. So we've been hearing stories from people from Russia, Ukraine, all kinds of other countries on that list.
Yeah.
Could no longer do transactions. Is that related to some sort of US regulation? Or can you explain?
No, that was a voluntary decision that we made internally. It's just that globally, it's 2019, and compliance in the US, in the financial system globally, is becoming increasingly more complicated and more expensive. And we just decided that we would actually no longer service some of those countries because they're deemed as high risk by the US banking system. I wish it wasn't this way. I mean, escrow is ideal for actually transacting where there's it's unsure about the level of trust between two parties, because we hold the money as a trusted third party in escrow, so the transaction can complete securely. Unfortunately, the amount of compliance involved in today's day and world, it made it prohibitive to continue for now. But who knows? Maybe in the future we'll increase our footprint. We are aggressively increasing our licensed footprint around the world. We are licensed in the US. We're licensed in Australia. We're about to launch in another major market, which I won't preempt today, but the announcement's coming out imminently. And we obviously work in pounds, euros, US dollars, Australian dollars, and so forth.
Also, you have different currencies, and
that's right.
It's possible to change currencies. Do you have some service like that, or?
No, we don't. We don't currently allow you to do FX. That's something we may offer in the future, but we don't currently allow it. We'll hold it in the one currency, and we'll pay out in the one currency. And
was it a large percentage of your business, the first list of countries, or was it just like a small share?
Oh, a very small share. I mean, the US is by far the dominant country. But, it's overwhelmingly the majority from the US.
Okay, so it's negligible. Relatively.
Yeah, it's negligible. Yeah.
And I'm curious if you have any plans to introduce cryptocurrency or any alternative ways?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I was an adjunct professor in cryptography for 14 years at the University of Sydney, and I studied under Dan Benet at Stanford University in cryptography. And I don't think that we will launch cryptocurrency anytime soon. There's a bunch of reasons why we wouldn't do that. Number one is that commercial adoption of cryptocurrencies is not going up; it's going down. Right. In fact, I saw a report. It's a few months old now, but there's a report that said that merchant volumes through gateways is down something like 86% or so. Right. So number one is the adoption is not there. Number two is US regulators around the world hate crypto. At some point in the future, I believe what will happen is the US Federal Reserve will come up with FedCoin, and then they'll ban or they'll regulate to death, other currencies. Now, there will always be some currency out there that, from now and forevermore, that people will be, using to buy all sorts of things on the internet, but, and potentially nefarious things. But we stay well away from crypto because the regulators hate it. I think it introduces a whole bunch of unnecessary headaches, and I just simply don't think the volume is there in the markets we're in, right?
It looks like Facebook and that group are pushing Libra to become the worldwide cryptocurrency.
We will see whether that happens or not. Simultaneously with them announcing Libra, every single regulator in the world said, hang on a minute, we need to talk about this before you go anywhere. And I believe there's a whole bunch of legislation that's been proposed around the world to stop it. In the US, there's a bill there's some legislation that's being proposed to put up into a bill around banning large technology companies from running financial services. And so banning the likes of Facebook and Apple and Google and so forth from running financial services companies. I don't think Libra will make it very far. I think this will be the thing. I think, there was a famous saying, I think Peter Thiel made this comment when he said, as a startup, they talk about disruptive startups and disruptive technology, but disruptive kids if you're too disruptive, get sent to the principal's office, right? And one of his compatriots, Sean Parker, started Napster. That was obviously incredibly disruptive. And of course, it got sent to the principal's office. I think that Facebook may have pushed things too far by structuring Libra like they did to make it look like a global currency. It looked like SDRs basically. It looked like it was preparing itself to replace currency globally, fiat globally. Yes, and you've got to remember, you're in an environment now where there's 17 trillion in negative yielding bonds, and interest rates in many countries of the world are either zero or below zero. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, on their blog, and in fact in talks, is actively discussing in the next recession potentially going to negative 4% interest rates. Frankly, I think governments around the world have broken money, and I think that some sort of a big reset or change is happening now. You can see it in the price of gold, for example. And certainly you can see it in the reaction to the price of Bitcoin, but I don't think Bitcoin's going to, or crypto's going to be the winner. I think the winner will be a digital currency. I think there'll be Fed coin from the US, there'll be PBOC coin from China, there'll be ECB coin in Europe, and so forth, which will be government-sponsored digital currencies, not cryptocurrencies. They don't need the whole crypto thing. They don't want to have 51% of tax. It'll just be purely a digital currency. That I think they will trump, and I think regulation will just make it impractical to run a different currency.
That's an interesting idea, but already right now they're saying that most currency, most money is digital. So would it be very different from like the current US dollar? But do you imagine that US would just do something like a Bitcoin, or would it be just something like
No, it won't be a cryptocurrency, but there is active discussion with the International Monetary Fund about having a two-tier system. I mean, ultimately, governments want to ban cash, and they want to ban cash so that the money is trapped within the system, so the monetary policy is more effective. And so they are actively talking about things, for example, of having a two-tiered cash system where physical cash, for example, decays over time, and digital cash behaves in a different manner. So to try and devalue, or even talking about having a time expiry on physical cash. So you can get physical cash out, but you have to spend them at a certain time or it expires. And in some regards, you've seen this already happen in India, where Modi, for example, cancelled the currency and reissued a new currency. And anyone who had currency under their bed had to go and change it within a certain time period, or it's cancelled, right? So, they are thinking about creating a two-tiered system with electronic currency and also with physical cash. And ultimately, governments would love to get rid of physical cash altogether because they can find out what everyone's spending their money on. They get their taxes paid in real time. There's a bunch of other benefits from that. But I don't think it's going to be the form of a decentralized crypto-like currency. And certainly no government around the world wants to lose control of the money supply. So they're not going to do it in a fashion and like Bitcoin or Facebook is proposing.
Well, it's an interesting idea. So, I was reading this book, Homo Deus, recently, and one of the main ideas that he kind of postulates there is that the progress of human evolution, of human technology, it goes based on what system is better at processing data. So the reason why, the economy expanding, why the free market beats socialism, is just because the free market is better at processing large volumes of data and introducing better pricing. And the idea then is that more distributed systems are likely to emerge in the future. And that's why it seems that something based on the blockchain is more likely rather than a centralized monetary system. Would you not agree?
I do not doubt that collectively the world can come up with a better way using the private sector to manage money, unquestionably. However, the US government has the US military behind it, right? And they will use that, right? I mean, the last time someone proposed something like this, they end up with a bayonet up their bum, right? So, with Gaddafi proposing a gold-backed dinar with African nations and so forth, right? You see a lot of regime change happen around the world. Anytime someone's thought about getting off the US dollar for the petrodollar system, right? So, this is a major thing. I mean, having the world's reserve currency, having your own monetary supply that you can manipulate and you can grow and basically effectively print money to kind of implement whatever programs you want to implement. No one wants to get rid of that. Now, could we build a better system collectively as a human race? No questions asked. But while these countries around the world have their own military, et cetera, and so forth, it's completely impractical. I mean, you'd have to kind of get to this utopia where you've got this United Nations globalist government managing the world, and then probably come up with a better system. But even then, it wouldn't be decentralized, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I know that Facebook and the group are investing substantial money in lobbying the US Congress to try to help to improve their legislation, more friendly legislation to Libra. So we'll see what happens.
I highly doubt it's going to go anywhere, simply because if you look at the track record around privacy and all the issues they're facing now, this is the last company the US government's going to let the money supply be handed up to. It's just not going to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's not just the US. I think the threat's even bigger in emerging markets. If you're living in an emerging market and your currency is devaluing every year as the government's printing money hand over fist, right? The last thing you want is your general populace transacting in a different currency controlled by a corporation. You just won't have any control over the economy, right? Or and the politicians won't be able to kind of implement whatever social programs or whatever pork barreling they want to implement in order to buy votes. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it certainly makes sense. So changing the topic a little bit, I want to dive into your VC background. So I know that before you started Freelancer, you worked for a VC firm and you were responsible for some major acquisitions as well.
I would say major decisions. Yeah.
There were some serious acquisitions. Well, how would you position your experience in the VC? How did it help you to become an entrepreneur and to start and acquire different companies?
Yeah, I mean, I only worked in venture capital for a very short period of time. Let me tell you, working in a venture capital firm, unless it's your own money, is one of the most soul-destroying experiences you can ever have. If you have any little bit of entrepreneurial passion in you, you will destroy it working in a venture capital firm. And I'll tell you why. As a junior in these firms, you get sent 50 business plans a day, 100 business plans a day. The business plans come in everywhere. And you're meeting with entrepreneurs every single day. You're meeting with them, right? And you fund 2 per year.
Yeah.
So every day you're meeting entrepreneurs and you're disappointing them, right? You meet with them, they pitch your idea. You think maybe this is okay. Maybe I should merge you with this other idea. Everyone thinks they have an original idea. Let me tell you, I saw the same idea in the short time I worked in VC. I saw the same idea over and over and over and over and over again. What's different is the execution. Who's going to get up out of bed in the morning and actually go make it happen, right? But yeah, you're meeting with entrepreneurs all day, every day, and you see a whole bunch of companies that you could be great, and you fund none of them, right? The two deals you fund per year do not come through the support at contact us at vcfund.com. They come because someone wants a co-investor. They give a call to the general partner. General partner goes, okay, we'll do a deal, etc. Right? That does not come from any. Very, very, very rarely will come from sort of like a junior analyst or whatever looking at deal flow. So you just become. It's soul destroying because you go to all these entrepreneur events and tech events, and everyone's trying to pitch you all the time, and you're not funding anyone. And so they're saying to you, "Oh, this guy doesn't get it," or he's a bit of a dick, or whatever it may be, like because you can't actually do much, right? Now, if it's your own money and you're managing your own money, well, sure, it might be a little bit different, right? But again, you would still get a lot of people sending you plans and what have you a day, and you're not responding to any of them, right? So I much prefer to be an operator on the other side of the table. So I mentally I could not handle being a venture capitalist.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. I can relate because it's similar to what we do on just on a smaller scale. So we buy businesses, we buy mostly content businesses, online websites, SaaS, and we get like 100 deals, 100 leads that we review every month, and we might just buy one or two. So we do have to tell people that this just doesn't meet our criteria, like this is just not for us. But on the flip side, we also try to help entrepreneurs. We try to give them some advice, what they can do to improve their business, what they can do to grow it further, or maybe even who they can go to sell it.
Yeah.
But it's certainly a lot about networking in the VC industry, right? So a lot of the deals are just done through who knows who.
That's correct.
And you started Freelancer. What was your original plan? What was your original idea behind it? What did you?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, this is a story. I mean, it's been well told, but I'll paraphrase it because it's it can go for a long time. But basically, I had started a venture-backed business building semiconductors and fabulous semiconductor, basically pattern matching chips that scan network traffic at high speeds. And you had to put it on a card to sell the chip. You had to put it on a card to sell the card. You had to make device drivers to sell that. You had to have applications and so forth. So, it scanned gigabit network traffic. This is 2001. There were no gigabit networks really out there. It was a really complicated business, great technology, but too early to market. Product market fit was wrong. It had a great team, but it had a bunch of VCs. VCs were fighting with each other, if not they're fighting with us. But after 6 years of running this, I got to about, I think, maybe $2.5 million in revenue, raised, I think, $30 million or so, and I left. I couldn't deal with everyone banging their heads against the wall and the VCs fighting with each other and fighting with me. So I walked out, and it was one of those dark moments in an entrepreneur's journey where you're crushed. You put 6 years into really, really trying to make this thing work, and it didn't work. Didn't set the world on fire. Ultimately, the company sold to Intel. So ultimately, in 2013, 7 years later, it sold. So I've been atoned for my sins because it finally did sell. But it was the moment where it's like, what am I going to do? I realized at a very early age I'm fundamentally unemployable. That's why I became an entrepreneur, so I could run my own businesses, start my own things, rather than work for someone else. And basically, what happened was, I was like, what am I going to do? I thought, I took some time to decompress. I went skiing. I rode my motorbike around the block a few times to kind of get off some steam. And after many, many, many months, I thought, okay, I've got to do something and get active. So I thought I just helped my mum build a website for her business. She's has a wholesale business doing arts, crafts, textiles, glues, paints. I told her in 1995, build a website. If she built a website in 1995, she would be a pioneer in e-commerce. It's now 2007, so she doesn't have a website. So 12 years later, I built her a website. I didn't realize she had 10,000 products. I needed to take 10,000 photos of the products, had to fill in descriptions, had to fill in whatever, all this sort of stuff. And as part of this, I needed some data entry done. So I thought I'd fill in a spreadsheet with all this rows of information, name of a shop, phone number, address, etc. 1,000 rows. I'll pay $2 per row, pay $2,000. I'll get a little brother or sister of a friend of mine to do the job. I would have loved to have the job when I was at school because I could work at home on a computer, get $2,000, it's good money, and so on. But after 4 months of trying to get people to do the work, I've got soccer practice. This job is boring. I know it's boring. That's why I'm getting you to do the job. I'll do it myself if it wasn't boring. That's why I'm paying you. I just didn't get anywhere, and I just got really frustrated, and I typed into the internet data entry online or cheap data entry or whatever it was, and I found this website called Get a Freelancer. And it looked like Craigslist. It looked terrible, right? Gray and horrible and whatever. And I posted a project. I think back then it cost me $5 US. I posted the job and then went to lunch. I forgot about it. And I came back later, a few hours, 3 hours later, and I had 74 emails in my inbox. I'll do it for 2,000, 1,500, 400, 300, 200, 100. First thing I thought was, there is no way there are 74 people who want to do this job. Right? I can't find one person. Like, this can't be real. Started chatting to them. They were real. I think it's mind blown. The second thing is, why is someone bidding $100? I put in $2,000. Why would someone bid $100? Then I realized people from emerging markets, etc. And for some people, $100 is 10 days work. Right? For 5 billion people, 5 billion people live on $10 a day or less. Right? And it was 2,000 rows. You could do it in like 2 days. Right? So for some people, you know, they're willing to do it for that price. I put the job out there. It was done in I think 3 or 4 days. It was perfect. I didn't have to pay until the job was done, and it came back, and my mind was blown. It was just like, oh my God, this changes everything, right? There is an army of people out there that will do any job I can think of. I can do it inexpensively. I can pay on a credit card. I can sit at home and just build companies using freelancers. I just thought, this is just game changing, right? Yeah. And in 2007, this was not obvious. Yeah, there was a bunch of little companies that are out there kind of doing bits and pieces, but to the average person on the street, this was not obvious. If I said to you in 2007, did you know you can get someone in Bangladesh to build you a website for $50? The average person on the street said, where's Bangladesh? Do they have computers? Do they speak English? Now, everyone knows you can go online and get stuff done, right? But back then, it was not obvious, right? And I thought, this solves all my problems. I'm sitting at home. I'm too embarrassed to go back to all the 70 people I hired in my last company and try and get into a new company when the other one hadn't done so well until later on. I can literally hire an army of people. I can afford it. I should build a company with this. Then I thought, what sort of company should I build with this? I said, this actual website's pretty good. Why don't I try and copy this website and build my own website like this? So I started a company called biditout.com. I hired freelancers off Get a Freelancer to copy Get a Freelancer. I could do programming, but I couldn't do design. So I was hiring freelancers for all sorts of things. I got some traction in terms of figuring out how it worked. I got going. I wrote a little business plan. I wrote a pitch deck. I did some financials. How much money do I need to raise to start this business, et cetera, and so forth. And back in 2007, it was still before the whole Y Combinator phenomenon. So you couldn't, the Y Combinator phenomenon is you put 4 people in a room feeding noodles, pop out 4 months later, MVP, try and get to market quickly, and so forth. Back then, it was more of the mindset of raise 5 million in a Series A, hire 20 people, have your own servers, all that sort of stuff. And so I did a back of the plan sort of spreadsheet. I needed $4 million to start this business. I thought, who am I going to raise the money from? Because I'd walked out on my VCs last time, and and the company hadn't been hugely successful. And in the Valley, they say it's a badge of honor to kind of have a failure, and because you learned your lesson, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if that's strictly true. Certainly in Australia, it's not true. In Australia, it's like for 2 years, I'd go into meetings, and the first thing out of people's mouths would be, "What happened at Sensory? What happened at Sensory? What happened?" And mentally, it's exhausting. 2 years of every single business setting, someone saying, "What happened to your last company?" Like, it just does your head in. It really does. And so, so I thought, no. And then I did a bit of market research, and there was hundreds of little companies trying to do this. There were about a dozen that had some traction, but not a lot. And so, I thought no one's going to fund me to be number 13. So I thought maybe I should try and buy rather than build. And that's where I went back to a bunch of these websites, and I said, "I'm interested in selling," and I ended up buying Get a Freelancer. It's a very long story cut short. And let me tell you, it took 18 months to close that deal. But I bought it. And then along the way, I bought number 8, number 7, number 6, number 5, number 4. And then ultimately IPO'd the business 4 years later. I raised $2.5 million to buy Get a Freelancer. It was doing 1.1 million in revenue. It was slightly profitable, had 500,000 users, 5,000 biggest website in the world. I didn't raise a single cent of operating capital, right? I raised 2.5 million just to buy the website. That's it. I IPO'd it 4 years later and opened at 1.1 billion US market capitalization. So I think it's...
So you've grown for acquisition, and the funds so you've done about 15 different acquisitions, is that right?
23 acquisitions.
Very well. And are those funded just from the freelancer revenues?
Cash flow. Yeah.
Nice. And 100%. Did you have any specific criteria for those acquisitions, or would you just go and acquire all the biggest ones?
Great businesses I can buy cheap. Buy low, sell high. That's it.
That's well true. Looks like it's worked out quite well. So now there's pretty much just two players, you and Upwork, right?
That's right.
Who is bigger?
Well, look, we're both public, so you can see the numbers. We have more users and more projects being posted. They have bigger revenue, bigger turnover. It's kind of a bit different in terms of demographics and so forth. But I think it's a very, very, very big space. It's the human labor market. 5 billion people need a better job. It could be a $5 trillion market. Who knows? It's room for everyone. I did try and buy Odesk actually before they merged with Upwork. In fact, that's kind of one of the reasons why they did merge. But it's a huge space, and we're certainly out there punching above our weight. So
what do you see in the future for Freelancer? Do you think it can grow? It can grow further? Can grow more? Acquire some other companies?
I mean, the whole way the world works is changing. I mean, look at Uber. Uber transformed the transportation industry using 2 million freelancers, 2 million freelance drivers. We have 38 million people on our website. I would say that we've got many more than 2 million drivers out of 38 million. You can build Uber on top of Freelancer, right? No one comes close to us in terms of number of users. We have people in everywhere there's electricity and there's internet. We have people, and we're really transforming the way everyone does work. We can help you turn that spark of idea into reality. If you're an entrepreneur, I'm sure many of your listeners have got all these ideas about building businesses, startups or what have you, or even just developing their domain names. You can now do it. If you just go to our freelancer.com, you can post your job for free. Just see the bids that come in. It's incredibly affordable. You can just pay for it on your credit card, and you can hire an army of people to turn any dream you have into reality. And we even have a co-pilot service. We've got someone who'll act as your technical co-founder or your VP of engineering, and they'll write the technical specs. They'll run the weekly sprints. They'll do reporting to you. They'll help hire the team. They'll manage the whole thing for you if you're not technical. So just go to freelancer.com and just try it. But you just post your project for free. It's transformative if you've never tried it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've tried quite a few times, both Freelancer and actually many of the websites that you bought before as well that now merged into Freelancer. I wonder if you have any tips or advice for our listeners in terms of how to choose the right people when you're hiring on Freelancer.
Well, we've got people that do that for you. We've got a recruiter service, which I think is $9, and we've got a team of experts who have the very, very best freelancers who will find them for you and guarantee the placement. In addition to that, I mentioned the co-pilot service where I act as your technical co-founder. So we'll help you do all of that, right? $9 is nothing to get some advice in terms of finding someone. Alternatively, you can have a look yourself. We rank people according to a reputation system. So the more feedback, the more jobs you do, the more you get paid, the higher your feedback, etc. You can look through their portfolios, look through their profiles, and so on. But if you haven't tried it, you should try it because it absolutely changed my life when I tried Get a Freelancer years ago. And it just, how would you change your business if you could hire an unlimited number of people and it didn't cost you very much? How would you change what you did? Everyone has dreams, aspirations, and things they want to do in their life, right? You can get it done now. You're only limited now by your own imagination. We have all the people, they're affordable, and we've got people to help you along the way, right? Very, very, very inexpensively. So it's mind-blowing what you can get done.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a really wide variety of services and people you can hire for Freelancer. So you've done quite a few acquisitions, and you must have people coming to you with different deals all the time.
Yep.
Do you have a framework? Do you have a criteria of what you look for, what you look at?
I do. Buy low, sell high.
And in terms of specifics, any industry, any niche, any type of business, or some size?
Yeah, I've got some advice on this. So if you're running a business, if you have a direct competitor with a very, very, very similar business model to you that you can translate. So for example, we charge 10% to the freelancers for a commission. And if we have a direct competitor charging 10% or 12% or 7.5%, it's very, very, very similar sort of model. And you can translate the financials. You take their business, their numbers, you translate to your numbers. You should buy every single one of your competitors, every single one. The ones you don't buy will go off an IPO, they'll get funding from VCs, and you have competitors, right? But buy every single one of them. If you want to buy a business which is completely different from the company you're running, don't do it, you're probably going to fail. It is extremely challenging to buy a completely different business and run two businesses at the same time. Trust me, we bought escrow.com, we ran Freelancer, completely different businesses, right? And it's very, very, very difficult to do that, right? So I strongly suggest that if you have direct competitors, buy them all, kill a competitor, find the right price. You can probably do it if you're really smart, cheaper than what it would cost you paying Google or some other channel for advertising, right? But if you're going to buy a completely different business, don't do it. It will be most likely very, very difficult for you to do.
How do you review deals? Do you just look at the numbers and see if it makes sense? Do you use your gut feeling or other things?
The gut feeling has a lot to do with it, because you also have to look at the potential of what you can do and how you would use it, and can I use my existing business as a distribution channel, and how different is what we're doing from their business and so forth, and how would I manage it, and who's going to run it, and so on. But yeah, it's a combination of things. I mean, my appetite for acquisitions at this point is low, because in the freelancing space, we kind of bought everything, and the stuff we haven't bought is now public companies. So that's kind of very difficult. And in the escrow space, because it's such a heavily regulated business, that all the competitors of escrow are not operating legally. To operate in the US, for example, it's a state-by-state licensing regime for payments, for financial services. Money service business is a technical word. In some states called escrow. And you get money transmission licenses, or you get escrow licenses. There are 50 states, 4 do not require licensing. There's 6 territories. You need 52 financial services licenses to operate in the United States of America. Nobody has like more than 1 or 2 licenses in our space, right? We have 48 licenses. So, it's just, everyone's operating illegally that's out there offering escrow services to the domain name space. And the risk involved in us trying to buy those businesses is too high, because we'd assume all the prior activity risks. And if they haven't done proper, I think some domain escrow services say, hey, come to us because we don't check people's IDs and stuff like that. That's all illegal operations. So you can't, those businesses are unsaleable. Ultimately, they'll be shut down by all the regulators. I mean, PaySafe stopped service about a year ago. Payoneer tried for 2 years. They shut down about a year ago. One by one, they're all closing because they're not operating legally.
And do you know how much of the escrow domain transactions are actually for websites or for existing businesses versus just domain names?
We don't sell shares, so that requires another form of license to sell shares, because that's equity. It needs a joint control escrow license in some states. We don't have to get that.
Yeah, an established website like content, maybe.
Yeah, so we publish all that data in a thing called the Fast 50 report. Sorry, not the Fast 50, the quarterly domain name report that we publish in escrow.com. So if you go to escrow.com's homepage, and then there's a link to download the latest quarterly report, and we have data in there. The number one way you can raise the value of your domain name is by building content out on it, right? And it's not hard to do. The first thing you do is put a logo there, right? And then trademark the name, right? And then you start building some content and so forth. And then if you have an operating business there, right, you raise the value. All that stuff you can do on freelancer.com very, very, very inexpensively, right? And you can do that at scale. But we have our co-pilots. If you can come to us with a domain portfolio of 100 domain names, you can say, I want to build content on all 100 domain names, and our co-pilots will help you simultaneously build the content on all 100 domain names, right? So we can do that for you, right?
Absolutely.
It's the fastest way to raise the value of your domain portfolio.
Yeah, it's great that anyone could just start a business by using your companies, by going and starting it, and setting up an account on Freelancer, hiring some people to get some things down, and then selling it for escrow.com.
That's right. We've got an escrow offer, a part of our API, which means that on every single domain in your portfolio, we will do the bid and offer management for you, and it costs nothing extra on top of just the base escrow fees. So you can say $50,000 buy it now, or you can say make me an offer, and you can accept offers, counter offer, reject offers, etc. No one's going to click to purchase $1 million domain name. They're all going to want to negotiate, and we do all that stuff for you in software. So literally, you can go to escrow.com, go to the API section, get escrow offer, and you can put it on every single one of your domain names. And today, you can start getting negotiations happening on those domain names. It's a way to basically start monetizing your portfolio, at least getting offers in. You don't have to take the offers. You can just look at it and go, okay, I don't want to accept it. You can put everyone down as just to make me an offer, right? And just
absolutely. Yeah, the API is quite useful. The hardest part of running escrow must be dealing with potential issues and disputes. So I know you have a process for that that eventually goes to third-party arbitration.
Yes.
Is that something that happens often?
No, very, very, very rarely. It's only happened a couple of times since we've had the business.
And a couple of times.
Yeah, only a couple of times.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have the way it works is it's a regulated environment. So the regulator sets up the rules. The rules are we have to have an internal dispute resolution process, which we do, and then either party, if they choose to, could elect to go to an external arbiter, for example, a AAA or JAMS or NetArbs or what have you, right? Sometimes, and that's arbitration. Sometimes we go to a local court in California, and we'll file something to get a judgment from a judge on a particular issue. But that's only happened like 2 or 3 times since we've owned the business. And in terms of going to external arbitration, that's happened less than half a dozen times to my knowledge, right, since we had the business, right? So it happens very, very, very rarely. In most circumstances, because we're holding the money, the disputes get resolved quite easily. That's the advantage of escrow. So, where escrow.com competes at the very, very, very low end, like cheap domains, we compete with buyer protection, right? So things like PayPal buyer's protection. But the problem with buyer protection is it's an insurance policy. I'm not sure if domain names are covered, number one. There's certainly not all different product types and services are covered by that policy. Number two, there are limits. Number three, if something goes wrong, it's an after the fact, fill in an insurance claim form. Was it described perfectly, supporting documentation? And it takes weeks to months to get a resolution on that, right? So you really, when you're using something like a PayPal, you're really risking everything, right? About whether it's going to work or not. With escrow, we preemptively make the transaction secure. It's simply, I agree with you for a price that you're selling a domain name to me. We lock it into escrow.com. If you want, you can be complicated around the deal. You can say lease to purchase. Maybe I'm going to pay you payments over 10 years or 5 years. Maybe there's some sort of special deal structure. Maybe I pay you 20% now, 30% later, whatever it may be. You can upload a contract. That's fine. Yeah. But in most circumstances, I agree a price with you. We put the deal terms into escrow. Escrow then says, send us the money. We take the money. We put it into escrow, a trust. So it's legal contract. It's protected. It's the most secure way of holding funds legally. We then say, okay, it's fine to ship the merchandise. There's an inspection period by which you could say, no, I don't want to go ahead with the deal, and for any reason within that inspection period, or the transaction goes through, right? And then we release the funds. So
with domain names, it's generally quite straightforward, but disputes might occur with websites. Let's say people are buying a website or an online business that makes an amount of revenue, and then they have an inspection period and the revenue is much lower. So that's a very common reason for disputes. And I can say that we've done more than 100 transactions, and we had probably 1 or 2 that ended up with some sort of dispute. Now it did not go into arbitration. We were able to resolve it. But the potential of going into arbitration and having someone who might not know anything about domain names, I understand that these are done by judges, by regular courts. So they might not be, well informed enough to really understand the matter of issue. It's problematic.
Well, that's why if you choose to, you can use our internal dispute resolution service, right? Which is a lower cost alternative. And
how does it work?
Well, it's all there's a whole terms and conditions page. I don't want to go through kind of line by line, but if you go to escrow.com and you go check out the terms and conditions, there is an internal dispute resolution process. And if both parties agree to be bound by that, then we can make the determination, and we do know about the space. If you don't and you want a third party, that's fine as well. We act as a completely neutral party in disputes. You can choose one of the arbitration services listed, or ultimately, if you want, you can go to court. And that's just how it gets done in the real world, right? If you're just not using escrow.com and I'm meeting you in the street and we're signing a contract, you can go through all the mechanisms, arbitration, you can go to the courts, you can do whatever, or alternately, you have the advantage, you can go through us if you want to go through us.
Yeah, absolutely. And so final question, what advice do you have for our listeners who want to follow your path into entrepreneurship by acquisition? What's a good industry to get into? How to find a good industry, and how to raise capital to go and buy your competitors?
Okay, well, I have a video on YouTube around raising money. It's called How to Not Get Screwed in a Venture Financing. If you search for Matt Barrie and that title in YouTube, you'll find it. There's a couple of videos. Make sure you get the latest one on that. I go through in intricate detail the process of how to raise money and why the best place to raise money from is by selling something useful to a customer, as opposed to taking investors on. But if you take an investor on, it tells you kind of the traps and pitfalls and so forth. So that's a good starting point there. I publish a number of essays on LinkedIn on these topics from time to time. You can follow me on Twitter, Matt_Barrie. I'm mostly talking about macroeconomic policy and the stock market and the price of gold and oil and bonds and so forth there. But through any of those channels, you get access to the content I produce.
All right, thank you. And we'll include all those articles and links in our show notes. So thank you for joining us, Matt, and wish you good luck in growing further and consolidating your main businesses.
I just have one more thing to add, which is we also run the biggest technology conference in Australia for startups, growth, technology, and so forth. And it's also one of the biggest in the region. Come down to Australia November 22nd, 23rd. We have about 100 speakers, a bunch of speakers from Silicon Valley come down. It's an incredible event. StartCon.com, check it out. It'd be great to get a bunch of domainers in there. We've got escrow.com there. We've got a bunch of our businesses there. It's November 22nd, 23rd, and it's summertime in Sydney. So if you're thinking about what to do at the end of the year, come down to Sydney, Australia.
Excellent. November 21st, 22nd, and 23rd in Sydney. Thank you very much for joining us today and discussing some really interesting topics.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Domain Magnet is a leader in buying and selling online businesses with a proven track record of expertise gained from over 300 deals since 2004. To learn more about how we can help you acquire or exit a profitable online business today, head over to domainmagnet.com for more details.